Hey everyone, it's Bob the BA, and welcome back to Sing Your Life. I apologize, I have been away for a little over 3 weeks, and I know many of you have been wondering where the heck is Bob? So, first off, thank you to those that sent me emails and text messages and things like that. The jokes, the comments, the questions, all good, very much appreciated. Um, I'm not gonna lie, I got pretty sick, and it completely kind of changed the way I started looking at things in life. And between getting sick and reanalyzing things, depression kicked in, and so it's been kind of a mess. And so the reason why I'm sharing this is, if you have cancer or someone else does, you need to be prepared for it at some point. It will happen to you. And this goes beyond the other things that I've already encountered because, I've been living with this for a few months now. This is a new stage. So, a little over 3 weeks ago, I did a full week class. And in retrospect, I learned that I should not be doing that. I do not have the energy or the stamina to keep up with that pace anymore. It's clearly not a smart thing to do. I'm not going to say I can't do it. I can. I don't know that it's healthy. And as a result, wasn't taking as good of care of myself as I needed to. And I ended up with a blockage. So, for colon cancer patients, blockages are a very real thing and they're very dangerous. And if not taken care of right away or effectively, it can lead to things like, exploding colons and all sorts of fun stuff. So, one of the things that you are supposed to be aware of is when you need to go to the hospital. And the hospital moment is when you start having a very high fever, along with a lot of pain, extreme pain, and throwing up. And naturally, I had all three. The problem is, I'm an analyst and I keep looking at the stats of how many people are getting COVID when they get to the hospital. And that just happened to a friend of ours. Fine going in, gets COVID in the hospital. What the heck? So, in this process of dealing with the blockage, you are doing everything you can to get things to move. And so, here's the perspective I'm going to give you. Um, Imagine the worst intestinal flu, diarrhea, pain you've ever had. And usually, for most people, that lasts somewhere between 15 minutes to an hour. Go a little longer. For me, stretch it out close to 7 hours, and just 7 hours of slow or no movement consistently. And yeah, I am fortunate to have a pretty decent threshold for pain, but that tests everyone's limits. And so, between the several hours of throwing up and everything else, I got to a point where I got better and no longer worried about the hospital, and then vowing to myself this could never happen again. And after talking with the doctors and nurses and everyone else involved, I need to make sure that it doesn't happen again because it takes its toll. So now Miralax is a daily regime for me. Miralax would be things like Senna or Xlax, those kind of that's that family. So you go from one end of the spectrum of not being able to do anything to now I feel like I'm ready for one of those Depends commercials. Oh, goodness. I know, awkward. Feels like it's too much information, but you need to know because you or someone will go through this at some point in their lives. And, choices have to be made. Well, here's the thing there's also additional things that were happening with my body at this time. And so my nails were getting incredibly brittle and would rip just by touching them. And so now I'm cutting them incredibly short and keeping them filed down so that, they can't do that or bend back. One day I just picked up a towel and bent my nail all the way back. Ugh. I woke up one morning and I'm like, why does my foot hurt? And I looked down and my pinky toenail had been completely ripped off somehow in the middle of the night. They're just very soft and pliable, and I'm beginning to wonder if I'm going to have to, have little bandages around my fingers and toes. So I got to somehow strengthen that up. And yes, I'm taking all sorts of vitamins and stuff like that. So I'm doing what I'm supposed to. But It's still the process you go through. Then my palate's going crazy. My palate is starting to reject food flat out. Bought some mixed nuts. I love mixed nuts. It's something you can have. It's good for fiber purposes, but not too much. It's got good fats. Nuts are good for everyone. And after a couple of days, it was like, no, I never want to eat a nut ever again. My palate just has rejected it. And it's doing this with food after food after food. And so I keep waiting, to figure out what the next food's going to be because it's awesome. Not. I mean, I'm just like, really? Plus I'm still having all these sensory problems with smells, and they set you off and they'll make you feel ill to your stomach. And this is months after the chemo, right? So there's still a lot of detoxing my body needs to do from the chemo. Well, with all of that stuff happening, then I set into depression. And as an analyst, I started diving into the details of planning and how many hours I have left to live. And what if I don't live this long? And I know it sounds morbid, but you want to maximize, the time you have. And then when I started looking at it, I was like, well, I can only guarantee this amount. And so now I'm cutting out huge chunks of things that I thought I would get to that I'm not going to get to. That's really depressing. And then you sit there and you think about it more and more and more, and you completely lose motivation. And then you're like, well, that's that much more I'm not going to get to. So I have reached out to various friends and family, and they've been very helpful. I got some great perspective from my friend and colleague, Lori Silverman, and we had a good 90-minute chat, and that really helped me think outside the box again. What was interesting, you go through this process, and I'm known for being creative. Think, learn, work differently. That's the motto of my company. And I went into the box so deep, didn't want to think differently at all. And I need to, because I have to get resourceful. I have to think about doing things differently so I can maximize my time. And she gave me some very good perspective about things that I'm good at and how I could alter that. And that makes it a little easier. So it makes that bitter pill a little easier to swallow. So thank you, Lori. So you know what? I just said I'm going to move forward. I'm back. I'm going to keep doing videos, as I promised. But even with someone with my background, it can take a while to get out of the depression. And for those of you who are dealing with other people that are suffering from depression, please keep in mind the depression I'm talking about is nothing compared to what some people go through. Not everyone has the wherewithal to deal with it. And so we need to be very open to what they're going through and get them the help that they need on their terms, because a lot of that is really about them coming to terms with it. So don't let those signs go by without recognizing that and seeing if it's there. So depression done, getting out of the doldrums, no more wah wah, whine whine. Moving forward, time to inspire, people to see, things to do. I would also say, things to shop for, but now there's a red light on the checkbook, so I'm not shopping for anything. Anyway, I'm glad to be back. And and by the way, I will tell you, I still sang every day. So I never lost that. That is key for me. Got to get out of the depression. All right, got to move forward now.